Welcome back, literarians, or welcome for the first time. I'm Literary Lori, and if you love to read books or write books that center the lives of Black people and other people of color globally, then you are in the right place because I love those things too. However, we are not here to talk about my love of books in this episode. We are here to continue my series for Black Literary History Month, which means that every single day in February, yes, every day, even Saturday and Sunday, I am here on the YouTube sharing the story and the literary lessons of one incredible Black writer or author who was born in February. Because people, Black History Month should herefore from now on be known as Black Literary History Month, because there are so many incredible Black writers and authors born in February, and not just Black American authors, Black authors globally. So if we were going to create a new holiday, it should be Black Literary History Month, because it is truly uncanny how many, just seriously, like award-winning, first of award, best-selling, everything, poets, journalists, authors, all born in February. Again, I didn't make this up. I'm just here documenting, archiving, sharing. So today's episode, we are on episode number 21, because we're talking about the writers who were born on February 21st. And even though I just said that I'm doing one writer a day, February, we're coming in on the ending, right? We're very close to the last day of this shortest day of the month. And I'm running out of days to share how many writers are actually born in February. So we are talking about the one and only Attica Locke today, but I have a couple of surprise extras at the end, so stick around. But let's get to today's featured subject, which is the Attica Locke. So Attica Locke is an award-winning novelist and a TV screenwriter and producer. Her credits, you might know her because of her TV and screen credits. She worked on the Fox drama Empire. She was a writer and producer on Netflix When They See Us. And she was part of the, I think she was also writer and producer on the adaptation of Celeste Ng's book, Little Fires Everywhere, which is a series on Hulu, which I coincidentally happen to be watching right now. Also, she most recently was the executive producer and co-creator of the series From Scratch. It's a limited series on Netflix, which happened to be adapted from her own sister, Tembi Locke's memoir of the same name. So you can see that Attica Locke has her hands, deep in Hollywood, but we're not here to talk about her Hollywood credits. We're here to talk about her incredible career as a novelist. And Attica Locke writes literary thrillers and crime fiction. That's kind of the category that you'll find her work. And I generally wouldn't say that I read literary thrillers or crime fiction, but I read books by Attica Locke because they're just that good. We'll get into it, but if you don't know her as a novelist, those are the types of books that she writes. And I just want to kick us off with a quote from Dennis Lehane, who is also very well known for his thrillers and crime fiction. He said this about Attica Locke, just to set the stage. He said, quote, "Attica Locke writes with equal amounts grace and passion. I'd probably read the phone book if her name were on the spine," unquote. So, buckle up, buttercups. Get ready to hear about an incredible writer. All right, so Attica Locke was born on February 21st in the 1970s, and she was raised in Houston, Texas. And yes, she was named Attica after the Attica Prison Rebellion, which happened in 1971. Next, I heard Attica speak on a podcast where she said that the first short story she ever wrote was actually done at a family reunion. She has a big family, and she said her family reunions are super extra, and she just wanted a little time for herself. She was young. She's like a child. And she wrote her first story on some hotel stationery, and she just felt really good doing it, that moving forward she often would go and find her father's legal pads, and she would just write short stories on those pieces of paper and the legal pad. And so it wasn't for publication or anything, it was just for the pleasure of writing a short story. All right. So, and here's a quote she actually said along those same lines. She shared this with Oprah Magazine in 2025. She said, quote, "Ever since I was a child, I've been a very dreamy person. I always know that I can escape into my own brain. As much as storytelling is about communion with others, it's also about really enjoying the pleasure of your own company. I've always been entertained by myself." Unquote. I love that. And I also heard her say on that same podcast I was listening to that she called herself a gregarious introvert, which explains that quote very well. So anyway, despite this early love of writing short stories and being dreamy since she was a child, Attica Locke went to college. She went to Northwestern University to study film. She was really excited and interested in being a movie director, and but after being in the film business for a while after college and, being relatively successful, she couldn't get the films that she wanted to make made. And she said at the time that she was writing, like the only writing she was doing was, writing scripts, for movie deals that she wanted, not deals, but, movies that she wanted to get made. But she wasn't thinking of herself as, as a writer per se, as a novelist, I should say. She ended up being a script writer for hire of sorts. So she was working in Hollywood and she was doing this for money, but she wasn't being fulfilled creatively. And so by this time she's living in Los Angeles. She has a husband, she's a daughter, and she's doing this Hollywood work, this screenwriting work, but she's, again, not being fulfilled creatively. And so she decides to walk away from Hollywood and focus on writing fiction. Like she's going to try her hands at writing a book instead of the work she was doing in Hollywood. So in 2009, Attica Locke's first novel comes out, and it's called Blackwater Rising. And originally, this was actually going to be a film that she wanted to make, but she turned it into a book instead. And the book, just as a book page, what they said about it, they said, "Blackwater Rising is an excellent book by any measure, but as a debut, it is nothing short of astonishing." So this woman, Attica Locke, is like, you know what? Screenwriting's not working. Let me try to write a novel. I heard people do this. So that first novel that she's like, let me just see if I can do it. She gets shortlisted for the 2010 Orange Prize. The book was nominated for a 2010 Edgar Award. It was nominated for an NAACP award. It was a Los Angeles Times Book Award finalist, and it was nominated for a Strand Magazine Critics Award, and it was an Indie Next Pick. So yeah, so she comes out the gate swinging, okay? So her second novel was called The Cutting Season. The Atlanta Journal-Constitution said, "It was one of the most engaging and she is one of the most engaging and gifted new voices in the genre. The Cutting Season does more than exhume a body. It rattles the bones of slavery, race, class, and power to examine a crime that reverberates from more than a century ago," unquote. And that book, remember, this is just her second book, wins the Ernest Gaines Award for Literary Excellence. Okay. It also was a Library Journal's, it was the winner of the Ernest Gaines Award for Literary Excellence. That's book number 2. So Attica's writing these incredible, mystery crime fiction, but she also is just an amazing storyteller, Her stories it's not just about the crime. There's always, real human beings in her stories, and she is grappling with issues of race. There's always some sort of family dynamics happening. They're real people in her books, and that's why I would never say I'm going to go pick up a crime drama, but I pick up her books because also there's always Black people at the center of her stories. So I love them. So book number 2 wins an award, and this is let's see, who do we say that? I could literally, I'm just reading reviews because they're all so incredible. But again, the second book, The Cutting Season, is just also, everybody thinks it's brilliant. Her third novel, you're like, what happens next? Does she have a fall from grace? No, she just keeps going with amazing books. So her third book is called Blackwater Rising, and it's actually a follow-up to her first novel. It's the same main character shown 15 years later. And that book, The third book is called Pleasantville, and it's a follow-up to Blackwater Rising, which was her first book. And that one wins the Harper Lee Prize for Legal Fiction. So again, Attica's like, is this novel thing hard? I don't think so. I mean, she's truly just such a gifted storyteller and obviously has these incredible ideas for these thrilling crime dramas. All right. So book 1, book 2, book 3, they're all great, right? They're all fantastic. Then Attica Locke is like, and I'm literally making this up. I don't know Attica Locke, okay? I've never had a conversation with her. But in my mind, I'm like, I imagine Attica Locke was like, all right, that was just warm up for me. Let me see what I can do with a trilogy. Hold my beer while I just whip something else out, okay? So book number 4 is the beginning of her trilogy that she's probably most well known for. And this first book is called Bluebird, the first book of the trilogy. And it is, we meet Darren Matthews, who's a Black Texas Ranger who solves crimes in cities along Highway 59, okay? Now, I'm not going to tell you what it's about. I'm going to let Walter Mosley, the Walter Mosley, this is what he gushed about Blackbird. He said, Attica Locke's, I'm sorry, I keep saying Blackbird, girl, it's Bluebird, my bad. Attica Locke's Bluebird reads like a blues song to East Texas with all its troubles over property, race, and love. Taught where it has to be to keep a murder investigation on its toes, this novel is also languid when you need to understand just what would keep a Black woman or a man in a place where so much troubled history lies. Thank you, Walter Mosley. Now, I could literally read the list of all of the awards Bluebird won. It won the Edgar Award for Best Novel, the Anthony Award for Best Novel, the CWA Ian Fleming Steel Dagger Award. It was a New York Times Book Review Editor's Choice. It was a Washington Post 10 Best Thrillers and Mysteries of 2017, and on and on and on and on and on. Okay, so the trilogy is Bluebird, Heaven My Home, and the final installment is called Guide Me Home, and that came out in September 2024. Interestingly, Attica originally envisioned this to be a series of maybe 8 or 10 books, but she did decide to end it with the third book and make it a trilogy. And part of her decision was because of the pandemic. She said she was going to go on a research trip for the setting of the next one, but she couldn't go on a research trip because of the pandemic and for other reasons. But she essentially shut it down as a trilogy instead of making it kind of almost like an endless series. Now, fun fact, even though the trilogy will not get a 4th book, Attica and her sister Tembi are reportedly adapting the books into a TV series. So that's fun. So it's really exciting that Attica Locke has been able to write on both, or work in both publishing as a novelist, but also still work in the TV industry, which I think is a rare situation for a Black woman particularly. And it's so exciting. And I feel, again, we're not friends. I don't know Attica Locke, but I'm still super proud of her for being able to have a foot in both places. And she's obviously often asked, like, what are the similarities of writing for TV versus writing a novel, and which do you like better? So here's what she said, and I love this, and I'm paraphrasing here, but she said that writing a novel is like a marathon. You're doing it alone and it takes a long time. Whereas writing for TV is like playing a team sport because you're often in a writer's room with multiple people. And she told Oprah magazine when asked which one she preferred, did she like writing fiction, writing novels, or writing for TV and working for TV? And she said, quote, "They are two different ways of being alive. At the age I am now, and with the chaos of the world that we're living in, there is a way in which I prefer the quiet of writing books. But I need the two disciplines because one makes me money and the other doesn't. Also, there is a chance that if during this entire time I had only been writing books, I would have gone out a window. I feel I like the camaraderie of Hollywood," end quote. So Attica Locke is obviously still very much in her creative prime. So I'm going to end this story about her with just a tip for my writers watching. So, again, I don't know Attica. We've never chatted, but I heard her give this great advice about writing your first draft as a novelist. She said that for novelists, when you're working on that first draft, nobody's making you do this, right? It's a choice, unless you're contracted, but then, it's a different story. But even still, nobody's going to see that first draft. So you might as well have fun with it. Make it fun. It's a lot of work to write that first 70,000 word manuscript. She's like, play music, drink tea, drink whiskey if that's your thing, but have fun. Do whatever you need to do to make that a fun experience. And I love that advice. And I'm actually going to share it with my fiction students this week, because it helps to take the fear away when you're injecting your writing with fun, and remind yourself, again, nobody's going to read this draft, so why are you putting so much pressure on yourself? Just get it out, and again, make the experience, make the writing process as fun as you possibly can. I will leave links to all of Attica's incredible books in the description below, and I would love to hear, because like I said, I'm not really a crime thriller reader. I'm wondering how many of you have read Attica Locke's books, and what drew you to them in the first place. All right, before I let you go, like I said, I'm running out of days to share all of the incredible writers who were born in February. So I have to give you a couple of more people who were born on this day, February 21st, because I just do. First, it's Malaika Adero, who is my literary godmother, fairy godmother, I feel like. She was the acquiring editor, publisher, senior vice president at Attica Books, and acquired my memoir, Kinky Gazpacho, and my first novel, Substitute Me. She is incredible, and I owe her my career in so many ways, but she's also an author, a writer, and an editor herself. So some of the books she has written include Up South, Stories, Studies, and Letters of This Century's African-American Migrations, Speak So You Can Speak Again, The Life of Zora Neale Hurston. She also wrote a kid's book recently called A Black Woman Did That. And she is a collaborator on the new Marla Gibbs memoir, It's Never Too Late. So happy birthday to Malaika Adero. Also, you might not know this name, Claudia Jones. Claudia Jones was also born on February 21st in 1915. She was actually born in Trinidad, and her claim to fame is that she was a journalist. And not just any journalist, she was a journalist in the Communist Party in the United States first, and she was an activist for Black rights, particularly for Black women, and thought that communism was going to be the way that Black people were going to receive equality in the United States and in the world in general, and particularly for women. But the United States didn't want an uppity, vocal Black woman communist in their country, so they deported her. So they tried to send her to Trinidad. Trinidad didn't want her, so she was deported after she was imprisoned in the United States and sent to the UK, where she spent the rest of her life. Now, she wrote an article in the United States that she's most famous for called An End to the Neglect of the Problems of the Negro Woman. That was published in 1949 in a magazine called Political Affairs. And that is one of the articles that she's most famous for. And she was considered, I don't know if she's the first or anything, but she really understood intersectionality. She understood that Black women suffered because of racism, sexism, and a whole bunch of other, and because of financial disparities. So she really understood this idea of intersectional what's the word I'm looking for? She understood the intersectionality of the Black woman's plight and understood how to discuss it in ways that the regular human could understand. And that's why she used the press as the weapon of her choice. And she said, quote, "People without a voice were as lambs to the slaughter." So she was an incredible writer and always found her way through journalism. In fact, in 1958, she founded Britain's first major Black newspaper, the West Indian Gazette, and that ran from 1958 to 1965. Sadly, Claudia Jones died in London on Christmas Eve, 1964, when she was only 49 years old. She had a heart attack, a massive heart attack, apparently, due to heart disease and because she had gotten tuberculosis when she was a child. Fun fact, like I said, she was a lifelong communist, and her burial plot was selected. It's right to the left of her hero, Karl Marx, and she's buried in North London. Now, Claudia Jones did write an autobiography in 1955, but it was never published. There have been books written subsequently about her, and I suggest you check her out because, again, she's one of these unsung heroes. However, the National Union of Journalists Black Member Council holds an annual Claudia Jones Memorial Lecture every October during Black History Month. That's in the UK. Black History Month is in October, to honor her and her contribution to Black British journalism. So I'm super happy about that. Again, her name is Claudia Jones, and fun fact, she chose the name. Jones was not her real last name. She chose the last name Jones to remain incognito, if you understand what I'm saying. Fascinating woman, and somebody should write a really comprehensive biography about her. All right, we're gonna end with one last birthday shout out, Miss Nina Simone. Yes, that Nina Simone. Yes, she was a singer, songwriter, musician, multi-talented musician, but we're gonna claim her because her lyrics were stories, and they were the soundtrack and the poetry, if you will, of the civil rights movement for many people, and protest songs. Like, that is writing. And I think, so many people from multiple generations still use Nina Simone's words to express their frustration with the world, especially the racism that we're experiencing or that we have experienced. So, happy birthday, Attica Locke, Nina Simone, Claudia Jones, Malaika, Adero. I'm glad you all stuck around. Thank you for watching. Thank you for your comments. I appreciate them all. I will be back tomorrow, of course, because we're still in the month of February, for another incredible story about another incredible Black author born in February. Bye.